Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of the Esports Racing League, presented by Podium Esports on the ERL Twitch channel. I am James Blight, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Cisco Scaramouza for an all-new venture with Podium Esports. This is the Esports Racing League brainchild of NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Anthony Alfredo for Richard Childress Racing. For those who haven't been around, Anthony is a driver who constantly is on the sim and also streams a lot on his Twitch channel, Anthony Alfredo, if you want to go search it. So, somebody who's got some experience in the sim, somebody who is more than happy to provide a platform for a lot of really good drivers in the sim to get a leg up and show themselves in front of all the folks. And you figure all the connections he's got with RCR, Chevrolet, Team Dillon Management, and the Dillon Brothers by extension. A lot of good connections in the series and a lot of really good drivers. Just go to pay attention to this evening. Now he realizes he's talking. As we get set for all sorts of wildness, madness. This is a 13-week season that we're going to be on board for this spring, largely mirroring what you see in the Cup Series all the way to the grand finale, which will be the Wednesday night before the All-Star race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll be racing in sim at Charlotte, and there'll be also a fun race during the Easter week since there's no real-life precedent to jump off of, but 13 weeks in shorter races. You're going to see a lot of A-fixed race links in here, so tonight we go for 50 laps, not all that long, a little bit shorter races, so it's not a tremendously huge commitment. It's not like a normal league, and drivers will still have the ability to jump in, run this, and then jump out and go run other stuff. But you've got some really good drivers in this field. When you look at some of the folks, the Podium Esports Daytona 500 champion Daniel Eberhardt is in here. The defending eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion Zach Novak is in here, as is his teammate for Richmond Raceway Esports, Jimmy Mullis. Graham Bolin and Malik Ray from the Joe Gibbs Racing Stable, both in here. Briar LaPrade, Patriot Briar, isn't here. Blake Reynolds from Team Dillon Esports. Andrew Farinars, driver in the Real Sim Racing Cup Series and one of their most dominant drivers over the last few years. A lot of really, really stout drivers who know how to get it done. And, of course, Anthony himself won't be racing every week, but has decided to jump into the car tonight for the season opener. So, tremendous amounts of fun, good amounts of fun, I think, that we're going to have here.
Yeah, I agree, James. This is going to be a lot of fun for these drivers, and where better to start than Daytona? If you aren't sick of it already, well, we've got more Daytona. There's been kind of a joke around the office this week at iRacing that we just want to go to another racetrack, but that will have to wait for next week because I think this is finally the last time and the final time that I can say goodbye to the World Center of Racing. Not that Daytona is a bad track, it's just I want to see something else, James.
Well, I mean, NIS is going to Vegas next week or this week, so if you want a little bit of a change of pace, you're going to see it out in the desert, and we start moving to the western part of the schedule on that front, as will this series. We're looking at an adventure in Los Angeles. Auto Club will be our next stop next Wednesday night, but for now, all about the drivers who are going to light it up on the grid and all the drivers who are going to contest tonight's race, which will go as follows. Daniel Eberhardt, pole sitter, with a qualifying time of 49.065 seconds. He's joined on the outside of the front row by Briar LaPrade. Alex McCollum for G2 Esports will roll off from third. Zach Novak, Richmond Raceway Esports driver and defending Coke Series champion, rolls off from fourth. Fifth will be the number 20 of Brendan Kaler. Kyle Ely will roll off from sixth. Seventh will be the 15 of Alex Bell. Cody Smith starts in eighth tonight. Ninth will be the League Meister, Anthony Alfredo, and that number 21 Chevy Camaro, and then Greg McConey rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, and then Anthony Trupiano is going to start 11th, 12th to Nick Olson. 13th is going to go to Andrew Freenars. Graham Bolin, he's the only guy with a photo today because I didn't get a chance to pull those out, so he's going to start 14th. 15th to Blake Reynolds. 16th is going to be Jarrett Liebert. 17th to Brandon McKissick. Jimmy Mullis, the teammate to Zach Novak in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, going to start 18th. 19th to Aaron Smith, and Jose Solis is going to round out the top 20.
Kyle Smalley, Braxton DeWeese, James Lowe, River Hayes, and Cam Caldwell that round out the 24-car grid to give you your field tonight at the World Center of Racing. We'll take a look at the track facts quickly. You know it pretty well by now. It feels like we've been racing here for about a month straight. The Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida is the site for tonight's race. It's a 2.5-mile, 4.02-kilometer racetrack that opened in 1959. 31 degrees of banking in the turns, 18 degrees of banking in the tri-oval, and 2 degrees of banking on the backstretch. It is default evening time in sim, May 15, 2020, and just after 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, local time in sim. We're going for 50 laps, 125 miles, 204 kilometers, with 3 attempts at a green-white checker. Track temps and air temps are relatively the same. Air temp is 78 degrees Fahrenheit, track temp 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds headed to the north at 2 miles an hour with 56% humidity. So I'm guessing the slightest ocean breeze coming across Daytona in this race, and not too much to worry about. And just a lot of really fast guys that got in here via the time attack function on iRacing. One of the first big leagues to take advantage of that feature, which was part of the rollouts a ways back when it was introduced to the beta UI of Cisco. But the top 32 drivers in the time attack were invited into the Premier Series. Bit of a small field tonight, over 24 cars, but as the league gets going, that should expand, and we should see the full 32-car field tonight as the ERL kicks off its inaugural season with Podium Esports back here to bring you all the action from the World Center of Racing.
And then just another feature of the members finding something to use here in the features of iRacing that we didn't even think of. So really cool to see time attack being used. But James, as we head down towards turn number 4 and the front straightaway, the pace car dives in, and it's all you.
Green flag in the air, and we are underway with the first race ever for the Esports Racing League Premier Series. As Daniel Eberhardt and Briar LaPrade will lead them to the green flag. 2 drivers that had plenty of pace, and 1 driver that came away with $1,000 as the champion of the 2020 Podium Esports Daytona 500 a few weeks ago. So no surprise that he leads the field into turns 1 and 2 for the first time, backed up by the 54 of Alex McCollum. Briar LaPrade leading that top line with Zach Novak there too, and another car just a little bit further back. It is Kyle Ely in the 7, who's third on that top side alongside Alex Bell in the 15.
And what these drivers are going to try and do right now is just run a little bit single or dual file here and just going to hold on for the time being with this package currently here on iRacing. We saw it in the real life race. It's very hard to really make those runs work unless you're committed. Otherwise, you just kind of get stuck where you are. You can see Brian Prod up on that top side. Can't really go anywhere without a huge shot from Zach Novak there in that 90 car. So you'll see everyone kind of hold serve unless they really want to mix it up. Then they start to move. Other than that, it's just going to be a holding pattern right now as they come off turn number 2.
A fantastic Freudian slip from Cisco as he almost called out Malik Ray's name, and I get the license to give him a little bit of grief for that. Malik, of course, in this series, to be fair, will be running the 51, presumably next week when we get to Auto Club, but was the driver of the number 90 in 2019 that Zach Novak now occupies for the 2020 season. So Novak there in a Toyota, pushing Briar LaPrade in 19 in a Toyota, both of those on the top side leaving that outside lane. And you're right, we did see it in the regular race that you saw some drivers maybe get runs, but you had to be right on somebody's bumper, a la Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin in the last set of corners coming up to the front stretch on that last lap. If you're committed like that, you'll go somewhere. Otherwise, if you've got any sort of space between the front bumper of one car and the rear of another, these runs just tend to stall out.
Yeah, they do, James. As now I'm a little more balanced on the audio side, but yeah, it's a weird feeling having, spent a lot of time driving against both the AI and members here with this package. It's such a different feeling because normally you're used to, kind of trying to get the run on the outside or anything like that. Wow, Briar LaPrade just dived to the inside there, James.
Yeah, LaPrade right there jumping and making sure that he's all right as they come through the back end of the tri-oval, making their way into turn 1 to begin lap 4 of 50 tonight in the ERL season opener, the inaugural race for the Premier Series. They'll be running the Cup cars all season long in the spring and then in the fall as well. So plenty of action here with these drivers as Eberhardt now down to the bottom. I think he's going to drop back here and get way in the back of this and just hang out. So Eberhardt going to slide all the way back and get himself out of the hornet's nest, as it were, and that leaves Zach Novak in control of this field. So a Toyota and a Toyota up in the front of this, and then they've got 2 Chevys right behind them in 3rd and 4th.
I think that was a bigger problem there for Daniel Eberhardt, because he has fallen completely out of the draft at this point, sitting in that last place position there, James. I think he saw something he didn't like. He got on the apron, and I think just waited a little bit too long. He has lost the pack. He's going to need a caution.
So all eyes on Eberhardt as we continue through this race. We'll see if we end up in any sort of trouble, but not good news for the number 90 machine as LaPrade now leads the inside line with McConnell behind him, and then Brendan Kaler in the 20 machine also running up top as you see the 90 machine of Novak continue to push. Kaler, veteran of the TRN Service Cup Series from Sim 500 there. Big Cup Series over there with that league, and plenty of faces, I think, from across iRacing, and not just the Coke Series here. And that's one of the things I noticed just looking at the roster of drivers of this series. You've got your fair share of Coke Series drivers, the Rays and the Bolins and the Novaks and the Mullises and so on and so forth. Colin Keister in here too. But you've also got some drivers who are pretty well known from some of the bigger leagues in iRacing, the Farinarses, the Kalers. Look, Aaron Smith has got plenty of experience across the board in so many different cars in the Sims. So it's a nice mixture of professionals and then a lot of drivers who are plenty capable and probably will make runs in Road to Pro this year.
Yeah, absolutely. As Graham Bolin drops to the middle lane there, got a huge push from one of those Coke drivers we talked about, and that was Blake Reynolds in that number 3. Blake, not of course having the start to the season that he wanted to, but it's going to be very easy to find that number 3 car on track all season long. That bright red, that Coke red number 3 car. We'll be watching him all season long and seeing what he can do to mix things up, but it's a black stripe leading each line here with the 90, the 18, and now the 3, as looks like about a 3-car breakaway here down on the inside, and that's Alex McCollum, that G2 Esports driver, doing a fantastic job.
McCollum's just been sitting there as you see Reynolds up top. Reynolds might have the easiest car to spot just because the whole thing looks like a Coke can. It is a Coke can race car just about all the way through. So one of the easy paint schemes that you'll spot on Tuesday nights in the Coke Series. But here comes Brian LaPrade. He got a pretty good push from McCollum coming out of 4 that last time by, and he'll go side by side with the 90 of Zach Novak with a big push from the 22 tonight of Graham Bolin, usually in the 18 machine, but Bolin in the Interstate Batteries machine pushing very, very well and doing a very nice job of getting another Toyota up into the front of this field.
Yes, he is, and LaPrade just has shown a lot of speed at this racetrack here, James, but just hasn't had a lot of luck. And that's really what he's going to be looking to try and turn around, I think, before we finally leave Daytona. He wants to walk out of Daytona and, have something go right. Obviously, he had a really good Daytona 500 over in NIS land, but apart from that, it's been kind of a rough one for the driver of the 19. So Breyer trying to find a little bit more here as they come off turn number 4, continues to lead on that bottom side with Zach Novak welded to the bumper.
I think mixed bag for Breyer because, he sets the result. There goes trouble in the middle of the tri-oval. Is it going to bring out the yellow flag? Blake Reynolds is around in the wall, and our first yellow flag of the evening is out. I saw Reynolds go around with help, and if that wasn't the exact same spot, just about, that he ended up in trouble in the Daytona 500 with Podium Esports, but trouble with the 81 machine. River Hayes, I don't know what happened to the 81, but the 81 just all of a sudden came down. I think he maybe just got a little bit too close to the wall. Not quite sure what happened, or got loose. He got loose in the middle of the tri-oval, and Reynolds had nowhere to go. The 16 machine of Greg McConey had nowhere to go. One more car involved. It's the 34 of Jarrett Liebert who got in trouble as well. And Reynolds, I think without question, got the worst of that as Liebert ended up T-boning McConey, and Reynolds has got a ton of damage to the front end of that Team Dillon Esports number 3 Chevy Camaro.
Yeah, and it looks like the 81, like you said there, James, just lost the back end, and just like that, River Hayes fortunately takes a couple cars with him. Aaron Smith having to spin through pit road to miss it. Probably the happiest of all the bunch here is going to be Daniel Eberhardt, because like we said, he needed a caution to catch back up to the field. That's his lifeboat that he just got. So Eberhardt now going to have a chance to catch up to the rest of the field as a couple cars come down pit road. Greg McConey went through pit road for about a second, so he had to deal with the flag on that one. But those two at the rear of your field, the 70 and the 16, two of those victims there from that accident. So we ride behind the Ford Mustang pace car.
few victims there, a few wild things here. And that incident to me, and a lot of the ones we've seen throughout Speed Weeks, across all the leagues, across all the events, it seems like the recurring theme with a lot of these wrecks is that you see drivers make the turn into the corner, but just because you turn into the banking in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the tri-oval, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the appropriate downforce on the rear end of the car when you're traveling at 190 miles an hour or more. This is a track where if you're really handling it correctly, you want the car to preload the springs, and you want a little bit of pressure that banking provides before you start turning the wheel, so that you know you have the grip and you have the downforce on the rear end so that you don't lose it. And I've seen a few drivers over the course of these past few weeks turn a little bit earlier than that point when the car is traveling through the banking, and they don't necessarily have the rear end preloaded, and there's not as much downforce on there. And when you don't have as much downforce, you're more liable to spin out, and that's exactly what we saw with that incident. As we had River Hayes go sideways, but Hayes just lost the rear end of the car, I think most likely because he probably turned too early in the tri-oval before his car was properly settled.
Yeah, I agree, James, and everybody coming down for service, as we're seeing most of the cars leaving pit road at this point. It looked like 4 tires and fuel for a lot of your field, except for the top 5. All of those guys either took 2 or just took gas only. Leading them all is going to be Jimmy Mullis in that 46.
Jimmy Mullis in the 46. We're seeing the SimSeeds car going to be up in the front of this field.
You got to be specific there, James. One of the SimSeeds cars.
Yes, one of the SimSeeds cars. Valid point, because the Grand Poobah himself, Anthony Alfredo, also running a SimSeeds machine. He picked up a little bit of damage, I think, in that incident a few laps ago, and got into the back of the 81 just as the 81 was coming across the track. But Anthony running a SimSeeds scheme and has plenty of support. I don't know if anybody caught SimSeeds social media over the course of the weekend, but Mr. Alfredo was down in Daytona having a little fun with Austin Dillon and a few other notable Twitch streamers as they went for the, Sim Racing to Reality Challenge. They ran at Daytona and Richmond Raceway on Saturday and had a lot of fun with that. We'll have Anthony on a little bit later in the broadcast to talk about how his adventures down in Daytona went. But so far as your strategy is concerned, 4 cars that took fuel only. LaPrade, Novak, McCollum, and Mullis, your quartet there. And then a few more cars now coming down pit road for service here. Kyle Ely, I believe, should be the one who restarts 5th, if my math is correct.
Yeah, that looks to be the case here. Is a couple more cars shuffling through pit road, just coming down again to get a splash and dash here. A couple cars like Andrew Freenars just did that. You can see all these cars now just coming off pit road. So it looks like, James, these are the guys who want to try and stretch and just be able to make it here on field. And it's going to be rather close because we're looking at about 38 to 39 laps at this point. And that's right on the border there of that fuel window. These guys like to go about 36 or so. So having, 38's a bit much. If they get another caution and everybody pits, we'll be good to go as far as fuel goes. But if we go green from here, it's going to be really close for those guys who stayed out. And even for the guys who came down and pitted, I'm still not feeling terribly good about that.
One of those you're maybe hoping for another yellow flag, perhaps, if you want to make it all the way on fuel?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting. I don't have the fuel numbers in front of me, but if my memory from 1 week ago is the case, we're going to be looking at about 35 to 38-ish. So it's kind of yikes there.
Yeah, and let's also not forget the fact that if we have a green-white checker, then that's totally going to throw things for a loop as well, as the lights are off on the pace car, and we're going to get set for more racing at the World Center of Racing as Brian LaPrade will lead them to the green. He waited a good long bit in the restart box before they actually got going, but LaPrade now back on the gas, and look at that. Surprise, surprise, the 2 Richmond Raceway Esports drivers have found each other, and Novak and Mullis working that outside lane to try and take the lead away from the 19 and from Alex McCullum, his company, as everybody else begins to line up on that inside. I think they're all just trying to string themselves out and make it for these next few laps.
And you say surprise, surprise, and that's why, James, these two finding each other once again, just like they did 1 year ago. back in the season opener of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and tried to do, of course, what they tried to do this season. Unfortunately, it was a little bit more roadblocked this year, unfortunately. But as they sit right now, Zach Novak trying to make that topside work versus Briar LaPrade on the bottom with help from Alex McCollum in that 54.
The irony of this is that they weren't even teammates last year. Friendly reminder that Novak raced for Roush Fenway Racing in 2019, and Mullis was with Richmond Raceway Esports. And then with the free agency period that came at the end of the 19 season, Richmond went out and they got Zach Novak and got him on the team. And now Novak goes down to the bottom to block the pride. But the Toyotas with plenty of power, I would say. Plenty of power. And then I think we'd also be remiss not to talk about the 18 scheme of Andy Trupiano, which for those who are uninitiated, you have to go all the way back to 2002 if we, and I guess by association, we're also going to trigger our producer here a little bit, but that is Ryan Newman's rookie year paint scheme, I believe, on that number 18 machine, and obviously incredible news earlier today to see him walk out of Halifax Medical Center. At least not excessively harmed. We don't quite know the extent of whatever happened at the end of the Daytona 500 yet. And we haven't had any word from NASCAR or Roush Fenway Racing or any of the official outlets on that as another yellow flag comes out on the racetrack. But obviously fantastic sign to see Ryan out of the hospital and presumably heading back home to Charlotte area for care after the hit that he took at the end of the Daytona 500 on Monday night.
I really don't want to say this, James, but I believe I know what the caution was, and we're watching it on screen. For those of you who aren't aware how the caution system works here in iRacing, and James, I'll double check, there wasn't anything else apart from this, was there?
I didn't see anything, no.
Okay, so this is, yep, and there's the lights on the ambulance there, so unfortunately, I think this may be a case where I'm going to go back and check the replay a little bit more, but for those of you who are unaware, if you are on an oval and you start driving on the road course and you do as in the case of what Blake Reynolds did there, you're going to trigger the caution. So, Blake, I know you're trying to be fun and all, but yeah, that actually triggers the caution here in iRacing.
Ironically enough, he came into the server chat and just typed LOL. Definitely don't think he meant to do anything, but got a friendly reminder that you do have to mind P's and Q's when you're racing out there, and you do have to make note of where you are on the racetrack in these sorts of cases. So
yeah, that's one of those things that, you know,
give him credit. He tried to be a gentleman, and it, just ended up, making a glitch.
Well, it used to be worse, actually, back there. There used to be a set of spike strips back there that would actually blow your tires out and blow you completely out of the sim back there, as Nick was telling me a couple weeks ago. So we fixed that, but yeah. Blake, don't do that. It throws a caution. Yeah, as cars come down pit road once again. Well, so much for fuel strategy. Throw that out the window. They should be able to make it from here.
Knock you out of the sim? You mean knock you out of the sim?
Yeah, knock me out of the sim.
There's a fantastic YouTube video that if you all haven't seen at some point, definitely go check it out, because Cisco literally does get knocked out of the sim, and it's quite fantastic.
I don't even know where that is anymore.
Oh, all you have to do, I think, I'm testing this theory now. If we Google, yes, exactly. Literally, you knocked me out of the sim. Just Google you knocked me, or search you knocked me out of the sim. And it is quite fantastic.
Oh, that's on Coop's channel, isn't it?
Exactly, it is.
Okay.
For those who want to be involved and
I'm gonna get that video taken down.
Want to? Oh, I guess you do now, don't you? But
yeah, I kind of want that video taken down.
Oh, but it's so great though. It's so great though.
It's not as good as me. It was Coop in the Bragging Rights Invitational that I turned him at the line at Homestead just to beat him. So,
or the one where we had like 5 people wreck at Daytona when we ran the caddies.
Well, yeah, that's the caddies at Daytona. As any seasoned iRacing member will tell you, Cadillacs at Daytona equals death.
But fun death.
Oh, fun death. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
But,
that's the whole point.
I believe, James, if you remember that photo, I had engine manifold damage. And a laptop that was beeping next to me that I slammed down in disgust.
Yeah, there was that. That's definitely true. And then I think incidentally, I've been running a Coca-Cola car that night, funnily enough.
How did you know so many years ago about who our title sponsor would be?
Don't mess with my crystal ball. My crystal ball is way, way better than you would think. Way, way better than a lot of people give it credit for. So the only one who would say they have a better crystal ball than me are my mother and my roommate, who both claim to be quote-unquote always right. So emphasis on the claim. In the meantime,
I'm not touching that one. You're
I know,
digging your own grave there.
Oh yeah, no, that's the fun part here. Is I get to have lots of fun as we look and see who's up here and who took a splash and dash, and it looks like about the top, call it 7.
Everybody but Cody Smith came down pit road.
And even then, Smith already on 2 stamps. So Mullis came down this time, and he got 2 tires, and I think Braxton DeWeese did as well, and then everybody else came down for servicing 4 tires. So Brendan Kaler, Alex Bell, Andrew Faridas, James Lowe, Kyle Smalley, Brendan McKissick, and Aaron Smith all came down for 4, and they make up the back half of this grid. So it's basically anybody who went for a splash and dash on the front end of this, anybody who went for 4 tires on the back end of this, although tire wear is very minimal here at the World Center of Racing, and you have 17 laps complete, 18 here when they cross the stripe, and I presume that 19 will be the one that we get the restart on, since lights are still on the pace car as they come through 3 and 4.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at Twitch chat right now. Several people cheering on the number 8 car of Braxton DeVries, and Braxton right now sitting in that 12th position. And I do apologize because I'm sure you can hear me double clicking here, but I wasn't planning on talking this evening. But a decent day for Braxton nonetheless. Started all the way in the back in 22nd, and running 12th now as the field once again hits pit road, just to be absolutely sure that Sunoco racing fuel will make them be able to go the entire distance here from Daytona. But another driver I saw get a little bit of love was Alex Bell, that 15. That we'll have to keep an eye on him. The driver that currently is sitting just coming out of pit road now, about 18th or so.
So let's see. Who have we seen in chat here? There's a certain famous name that I've caught in chat already, and a very proud FCDS grad at that. Wink, wink. Also, a few fans for DeWeese, a few fans for Anthony Alfredo, and also, as you said, a few fans of that number 15 of Alex Bell. So lots of fun, lots of good stuff, and I guess Fury's All Abound represented not only in chat but in the broadcast booth as well. So hey, as our good friend John Danforth would say, let's go ahead and get another restart going. As the lights are off on the pace car, and we'll get the restart on lap 20 of 50. It will be Cody Smith leading the... Well, actually, yes, Cody Smith, then Andy Trupiano, Alex McCollum, Kyle Ely, Nick Olson, Briar LaPrade, Graham Bowen, Zach Novak, Brendan Kaler, and Jimmy Mullis. Your top 10 for this restart that will come on lap 20 of 50.
And you can see the field very much shaken up after that last-second stop on pit road. But we can say your top 5 did not pit, as well as Brendan Kohler there, as well as River Hayes. And that's kind of the only guys who have not come down pit road to top off. So just keep that in mind as we get set to take the green flag.
Green flag out now, and Cody Smith got a pretty good bump from Alex McCollum in the 54, waiting to see what kind of run the top line gets with the 18 of Trupiano, and then the 7 of Kyle Ely. Graham Bowen is up there as well. A few more Chevy Camaros in the background in that line. Meanwhile, down to the bottom, it's the 24 machine of Nick Olson running with the 20 machine of Brendan Kaler, and then you've also got the 87 of Brandon McKissick. We've barely called his name, but he's just sort of been riding and hanging around and waiting to make sure that he's all in one piece as this field comes up to full song down the backstretch. And here comes the 18 with a really big run to the outside of the 1.
Yeah, we can see the 18 just riding that outside lane, trying to get a little bit of help there from the 7. You can see just up the screen a little bit Kyle Eli there in that number 7, and then the 18 of Graham Bowen trying to make things work as he's actually going to shuffle Kyle out to the outside, so it's going to go 3 wide, and the 7 is in the proverbial sucker hole at this point, though help coming from Briar LaPrade up there.
LaPrade thought about going up to the 7 and then decided to jump back in line, so it's 2 lanes to the set of Ely's going to drop well to the back of this pack and slide in at about that 13th position, 14th technically actually, as the outside line is trying to form. You've got two Toyotas up there, maybe three if Bolin decides to make the jump, but LaPrade and Novak, and Bolin right on cue jumps up top of the 18 of Trupiano. So 3 lanes beginning to, well, was about to say beginning to form, and then Novak decided to dive back into the second. So as does LaPrade, and those two will come back to the inside, and they'll let Graham Bolin begin to shuffle a little bit further back in this pack, as now he is the one car out of the draft.
Just playing around a little bit as Bolin going to continue to slide back. You'll notice that there is a green 18 on that car, but in terms of the scoring pylon, that's going to be reading as 22 this evening. So just keep that in mind. He obviously still has his Coke number stamped on the car, so we can't really do a whole lot to change that. So just keep that in mind here as we're continuing to watch. I've messed it up a couple times. The official 18, at least according to the scoring pylon there, is indeed that number 18 of Trupiano, who right now just lost his drafting partner there in the 54 of Alex McCollum, who drops down to take the lead.
McCollum drops down to take the lead, so you've got 2 Camaros on the inside, and it's Toyota up on that third groove. LaPrade and Novak and Bolin. I'm almost waiting for the point in which Jimmy Mullis decides to jump up there too, because that's not only 3 Toyotas up there already and then a Chevy Camaro, but those are all 3 Coke Series drivers that are up top trying to make that third lane work. So Mullis would have plenty of help if he decides to jump up there. The question is whether or not he decides to jump up there to begin with.
Yeah, as they continue to battle back down the back straightaway, and there's the push for the 18, but he goes absolutely nowhere, has to jump to the top side, nowhere for that Altel Ford to go. So now they'll go 3x3 here as they come back through turns 3 and 4, and you can see that Gordon-looking entry there on the bottom side, the 87. We talked a little bit about him earlier, Brandon McKissick, trying to make things work, and you can spot that car out because that is a very familiar red and black and silver scheme with some Aardvark bold numbers on it in a curious Hendrick yellow. So I think that's a little nod to a certain favorite driver and a certain broadcaster that is now working up in the booth as they come through turns 1 and 2. And Alex McCollum continues to lead with the number 1 of Cody Smith welded to his rear bumper.
You know you are a nerd when you know the font that number is in very specifically. But to be fair, you've got 2 Hall of Famers that have carried Aardvark bold numbers on their shirts, or at least 1 Hall of Famer and one Surefire to
Surefire.
Be here in the class of, I guess, 2023, 24?
I think that's how the math works.
24, I think. That is if he doesn't run in 21. We'll see what sort of plans he has there, because it might not necessarily be over outright. He's made a very, very clear point of that it's full-time racing that he's retiring from, but maybe not necessarily all racing.
Of course, talking about Mr. 7-time himself, we actually saw him on iRacing today. Was driving an Indy car around Barber, so food for thought there. He's talked a lot about lately wanting to jump into an NTT Data Indy car, so we might see Jimmy actually try a couple testings and maybe have some fun. Maybe not this season. I don't know how Mr. H would feel about this season, but perhaps next season we might see JJ go open wheel, or go back to open wheel, I should say.
Maybe he's just getting himself warmed up for me, because I'll openly admit one of my favorite combos in the sim is the IR-18 on the oval at Indianapolis. You'll be hard-pressed to find more fun, and I wouldn't blame him if he were getting revved up for the Indy 500 and at least just getting some seat time in that car to get a feel for how it goes. As we see McCollum jump back to the front again, he's got help just behind him in the form of Kyle Smalley in the 42 machine, as those 2 Camaros go nose to tail to get linked up. And then you've got Jimmy Morris with plenty of help from Cody Smith in the 1, and that third lane now being marshaled by the 21, the Grand Poobah, the lead master himself, Anthony Alfredo, trying to jump out there and get a little bit more momentum in that third groove coming into turn 1. Big move from McCollum and Mullis though in the front to get down to the bottom.
And those two definitely know how to time things out. We saw plenty last week at Daytona, and unfortunately it looks like the sauce is starting to split a little bit for Anthony Alfredo, not able to get get any room up there on the top side to work, and unfortunately he's going to drop back to the rear end of this second line up on the top side, so Alfredo unfortunately can't go anywhere. He's going to try and drop in line. He's going to get stabbed in the back because the 90 of Novak just cut off Daniel Eberhardt, and Eberhardt, I think, just had a little bit of a, as Matt Malone would say, brown pants moment there.
Perhaps. But again, pretty experienced company back there too. Aaron Smith is just sort of hanging around. He's a veteran of a lot of series that we've done at Podium Esports, the iRacers Lounge Podcast Oval Series, the Stock Car Challenge Series powered by iRacing iFlag, the Elite Series, the Truck Series. He ran pretty much everything last year, so no surprise to see him in that bright yellow with the black number 70 on another broadcast here. Goodness gracious, if that's not an open casting call for French's Mustard or somebody with that sort of color to jump in and sponsor that car. He's already got the whole thing primed and ready for anybody with a lot of yellow in their scheme. Meanwhile, Jimmy Mullis and Zach Novak trying to get linked up together again. Novak with some work to do in the back, but he's pushing on the outside trying to catch his teammate who is currently leading this race, and then the 42 machine of Kyle Smalley now to the outside of McCollum with help from Graham Bolin in the 22, 18, 22, we'll call it tonight, and he's got the 18 in this race right behind him. Just if you wanted a few more metal loops, as they nearly get in trouble, and then there goes Trupiano, and there goes the outside line. LaPrade in the fence, big wreck on the back straightaway to bring out the yellow flag on lap 29.
And that is big-time issues for that Altel Ford and several cars there that was in that mid-pack, James, as we'll wind back the cameras and take a look at the replay there. And, well, it just, in that case, it was the 42 of, that 42 car got up into the outside wall, and after that, it just all the way, kind of fell back all the way through the field there. That was Kyle Smalley in that 42 trying to figure out who that was. But we'll wind it back one more time to show you. You can see he gets a push from Graham Bolin up there and just gets the wall ever so slightly. And then it just accordions back, and then there's that 18 of Trupiano. And Trupiano gets into the wall, and after that, it's calamity. And nowhere for Zach Novak to go, despite the fact I think Novak almost got through it until he just clipped that number 19 of Brian LaPrade. You see the 9 go into the wall. That car driven by James Lowe, and then several other cars trying to dodge the wreck. I think Mr. Alfredo was able to work his way quite easily through that wreck. We'll watch his on board here before we cut back to the live picture, but a little bit risky there for that number 21.
Wouldn't necessarily say he got through there easily, but he did manage to sneak his way through that incident pretty well. So very nice job on the 21's part, but a lot of torn up race cars in this, and a lot of drivers who are going to be hoping that they can get a little bit of time on pit road to fix the damage, as McCollum sits in front in a actually pretty caution-filled race for a 50-lapper. Not too much distance in this, but enough to where a lot of these drivers are going to be thinking about the last 20 laps of this race, and then potentially green white checkers, because we've also got that in the background as well if that ends up being on the docket. We'll just have to see how it plays out, but looks like pretty much everybody's safe for McCollum. And then they start faking. Ooh, okay. So pit strategy abound here. We've got about 4 or 5 cars that have stayed out. Everybody else coming in for service.
It looked like Alex McCollum was going to be the loneliest man on the dance floor there, but in that case, he actually gets several friends as many cars coming down pit road. It looks like 7 cars are going to stay out here. Eberhardt, Salas, Bolin, McKissick, Smith, Olsen, and McCollum, I should say. McKissick was the name I goofed up there, but that group of 7 cars all staying out on the racetrack. Several cars you can see, obviously, that very, very damaged machine of Brian LaPrade in the forefront of the picture there. But everybody else just taking 4 or taking 2, depends on what the tires they want. Aaron Smith took 2, and looks like everybody else took 4 as they come off pit road.
A lot of drivers here taking 4 this time around. McKissick got them, and Bell got them, Liebert got them, Mullis, Alfredo, Farinas, Kaler, River Hayes got a little bit of 4 tires and fuel, and plenty of things, I think, to watch for in these final 20 laps, especially that third lane. We didn't really see it come to life in that first maybe 10, 15 lap stretch, but especially in the middle of this race, we saw a lot of that middle lane really starting to begin to perk up, and I suspect that as we get closer to the checkered flag, we're only going to see more and more action for the top side, and I figure there'll be 3 wide racing for the lead at some stage in here, and not too far in the distant future.
I'll tell you what, James, while we're a little bit slowed down here, we can walk you through just some of the locales that we have in the field here this evening. Just some interesting information here. Carolina, of course, a strong representation here with 4 drivers, Aaron Smith, Jimmy Mullis, Nick Olson, and then Brendan John Kohler, as well as Mid-South, who has 3 drivers here with River Hayes, Cody Smith, and Briar LaPrade. New England also repping there with Zach Novak, Andrew Freenars, Jose Solis Jr., and of course Mr. Alfredo himself. New Jersey with 2 drivers with Kyle Ellie and Alex McCollum. The Northwest has Jarrett Liebert. Ohio has a pair of drivers with Braxton DeVries and Alex Bell. Texas, 3 drivers there. Blake Reynolds, unfortunately, out of this event. Graham Bolin and Kyle Smalley. The Virginias have James Lowe 3. And then as far as a couple of the states with just single drivers, Andy Trupiano is out of Michigan. Greg McConey is out of Indiana. And Daniel Eberhardt out of Georgia, as well as Brandon McKissick out of Florida.
So, I would say it's a tie between Carolina and New England for the most represented clubs in this race. And if you wanted to use the broadcasters as a tiebreaker, there's absolutely nothing in it there, I suppose, unless we're counting you as part of Illinois, because now that you're all based up in Massachusetts.
I was going to say, my iRacing, that still says Illinois on it, James, so I think we have to give it to Carolina on that one.
As a Carolina native, so I suppose it's at this point of the broadcast that we say, in the words of the brilliant wordsmith P.D. Pablo, North Carolina, come on and raise up. Take your shirt off, twist it around your head, spin it like a helicopter.
Though, I guess, James, if we think about it, I have 3 iRacing accounts that say I'm from New England, so maybe that counts, and then the one from Illinois. I mean, we have to be specific here.
That is true. It may end up just turning into I don't know, somebody from Massachusetts come in and give me an anthem for the state that doesn't involve Aerosmith.
Something, Patriots, something.
I was going to say, it's either Aerosmith, it's either Aerosmith, the Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Up to Boston, anything that's like 1780s colonial patriotic, I guess. There are a few options that you can work with here, I suppose.
God save our gracious America.
Really, some sort of God save the Queen knockoff. And anybody in chat, if you have answers as to what a proper, dyed-in-the-wool Massachusetts anthem is, a la the fantastic raise up from P.D. Pablo, or if we're going to be a little bit more country about it, the OCMS rendition of Wagon Wheel, with all due respect to Darius Rucker, but he got all his love for Hootie the Blowfish, and that's where he can make all his money and get his claim to fame. But it was OCMS that actually put together Wagon Wheel initially. Old Crow Medicine Show. Highly recommend them.
If we're going to talk about New England, what you can do is write that answer on a $21 bill and write it to Car Talk Plaza, Cambridge, our fair city, Massachusetts.
Yes. Couldn't forget the Car Talk reference, because goodness, what a show and a half. Made NPR really, really fun for all of us weird car people. But I guess we have a restart to deal with, so we can take a look at this restart and tell you who will restart where on lap 34 of 50. It'll be McCollum, Olson, Smith, McKissick, Bolin, Solis, Eberhardt, Bell, Liebert, and Mullis, your top 10, as McCollum leads them to green. Pace car pulls you off. Green flag drops in the air. McCollum waited about midway through the box and then took off and got a pretty good restart as they worked their way through the gears. Up into third gear now as they come to turn 1. All the way up 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 RPM as the 2 of Jose Solis just about got turned on corner entry. McCollum revving it up to about 95, 9,600 before he actually shifted into fourth gear as they now come through turn 2 at fourth gear and begin to work their way up to 180, 190 miles an hour.
And you can see the damage on that number 18 of Graham Bolin. The right front a little bit turned up there, but he's managing to hold on to that car. Of course, his Daytona excursion last week in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, well, he made the thumbnail. And if you make the thumbnail this year, that's probably not good because you're probably either in a wreck or you're on your lid or flying through the air or something like that. So, not unfortunately the ending to the Daytona Coca-Cola race that he wanted, but as they thunder down back into turn number 1, you can see a little bit of breakneck pace there up on the top side. The 24 of Nick Olson got turned by the Gordon car, or the Byron car almost got turned by the Gordon car there, and that almost was a disaster going through the corner there.
Like 24-ception almost. About, right?
Yeah. Cue the bass music.
Yeah, really. Cue the Hans Zimmer. Although we might need a Jaws theme for everybody in this field because we are inching closer towards the finish. There are green white checkers available if we need them, but scheduled distance is lap 50. 15 laps to go now as they cross the stripe. And it is Bolin who now has control of that top side with McCollum, who has one of the cleanest cars in the field. And how about Daniel Eberhardt? We said he was almost left for dead after he lost the field at the beginning of this race. We clearly know nothing because now here we are within the final stages of this race. And the Podium Esports Daytona 500 champion looking for another victory at the World Center of Racing. And he's right in the top 5 like he didn't miss anything at all besides the rest.
Well, if he was left for dead, then he got a med pack because he is running fantastically well in that bottom lane. Second in line there, that number 17 car. Of course, behind Alex McCollum, that G2 Esports driver. The red, black, and white car as Graham Bowen going to try and take a stab at it there on the top side. And at the line, about half a car length, give it to Alex McCollum. So McCollum doing a fantastic job. But now that overspeed on the top side is going to help that driver in the 18, but not too much help. Not too much avail, I should say, up there, as now the third lane starting to form. You can see the two teammates up there, the wounded car of Zach Novak and the 46 of Jimmy Millis on the top side trying to make it work.
Jimmy Millis now with a little bit of help. Novak, the pushy in this case. A little surprised they've got him up at the front of this. But I think they're all okay because they're all just hanging behind Cody Smith. You certainly wouldn't want Novak actually leading.
Oh, hell of Eberhardt.
If he's in the pack, as Eberhardt decided to jump down and just dump McCollum. So McCollum now stuck in the middle. He'll get help from Graham Bowen in the 22, and Eberhardt with those daring and aggressive moves. And almost ironically, I was about to say that McCollum was running a race very similar to what Jeremy Allen did, especially in the middle of the Podium Esports Daytona 500, where there was about a 50-lap stretch where he just sat down on the bottom and controlled everything. That was about to be the case for McCollum, and then Eberhardt decided to go full Eberhardt and just jump right down there and take it away from him. So Eberhardt now in control of that bottom line in what is the 17 tonight, the 54 of McCollum, running the same number that you'll see him run on Tuesday nights in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, with help from Graham Bowen, another eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver for Joe Gibbs Racing in the 22 this evening. But those two now in control of the top side as they come to lap 39 of 50.
And Eberhardt, of course, this is nothing new for that driver, and Daniel Eberhardt is a very aggressive driver. We got to see it in the Podium Esports Daytona 500. He loves these plate tracks, but this very much suits his style. He's a very, we'll say it again, put a coin in the jar, he's a very aggressive driver and likes to take those risks. And that doesn't mean he has a lot of friends out there. As you can see, he door slams the 18 there of Graham Bowen. You can see not a very popular driver, I think, at the moment in this group, but he's dicing his way, trying to get to the front. This Eberhardt, once you go full Eberhardt, you do not go back, and that is what we're seeing right now. Is now to the top side. There goes Dan, and he's going to try and take the lead once again. He is not pulling any punches now. He wants to win.
Somewhere between Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano's styles, with this package in particular, are the plate tracks, rests Daniel Eberhardt's driving style, which effectively boils down to getting to the front and then controlling both lanes depending on where the run is coming from and not being afraid to take the bumps like the one he just got from Graham Bowen in the middle of turn 2. He'll probably jump down to the bottom once they get to the corner, but not before he covers the run on the outside and drags the brake just enough so that it kills the run of the 22, and he almost sent Bowen to the top side, because if you drag the brake, you check yourself up as the leader. Driver in second will jump up top, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see. There goes McCollum to the top side now. He got a good run out of the corner, and there goes the 87 around, and he got the 24, so the Gordon-Byron tandem now in trouble down on the apron. The 87 spun to the entrance of pit road, and then the 24 ended up through the grass in the trial. They both lost the draft, but we stay green with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, so both those drivers on the apron, away from the racing surface, so that's going to be clean and green here. It did break up this pack a little bit, but what it allowed some of these drivers to do is find a couple friends. You can see the 46 and the 90, the two teammates there, they found each other. Unfortunately, they found each other in the wrong lane as Jimmy Mullis, as now they're going to go 4 wide possibly. No, the 15 going to fall in line right in front of the 46 of Mullis. It almost got sketchy there for a moment. And now the 4, we haven't talked about Andrew Freenars all night, and he's trying to make something happen. That 88 car, that blue and white car, trying to make something happen down on the bottom side behind Anthony Alfredo. Where did he come from?
Barely said a word about Freenars, and yet he's just sort of hanging out there, right behind the 21 of Alfredo, who's in line there, just patiently biding his time, racing and pacing, plotting the course, as we would say on many a Podium Esports broadcast, because might as well just go ahead and consider ourselves Grammy holders extraordinaire with all the musical references that we throw in and like to throw in. But still, for the moment, 2 lanes of about 5 cars each, and it's Alex McCollum in control of this field ahead of Eberhardt, ahead of Cody Smith, and then Jose Solis Jr. Haven't seen much of that too, but nice run for that Toyota Camry. The bright orange of that machine makes it very easy to spot where that car is amongst this pack.
And one thing to note here, James, that number 1 car of Cody Smith, we're seeing him dice it up with the leaders, is on lap number 31 of his stint on fuel. He should be good to go thanks to the caution flags. We still have about 8 laps to go here. But with that being said, we're going to have to watch that number 1. He was able to save some fuel, but was it enough? I don't know.
One of those hair-racing moments. If he makes it to the end, it'll be about 38, 39 laps that he would go, which is right in the middle of the pit window as McCollum tried to go to the top side to block him and didn't have enough momentum to keep the 1 at bay. He gets help from McCollum, but now it is 3 lanes through the middle of the tri-oval as the 1 car gets stacked up. Then you've got another car that ducks down to the inside, and it's now McCollum and Scholes who are down in front on that middle lane and then that bottom lane, and then McCollum drops to the inside. So it's McCollum in control of the bottom and Eberhardt in control of the middle lane, and then he tried to block it again and nearly got put in the middle again as Eberhardt jumps up top, and now Eberhardt doesn't have any help.
Yeah, I was going to say that is the one place Eberhardt did not want to find himself, was on the outside, because nobody's going to go with him, and just like the anchor out the back of the cruise ship, the 17 of Daniel Eberhardt is going to go straight to the back. He'll have to drop in behind that number 20 car of Brendan Kohler, as well as that number 1 of Cody Smith, if Smith even lets him in there. And yes, he will get to the rear end of the top side there behind that number 5 car. So not quite sure which car that is on track. I believe that's Jarrett Liebert. Yes, the 34 is listed officially, the number 5 car up on the top of the racetrack there. That's Splash and Go graphics entry, trying to make something happen here. Liebert, one of the higher I-rating drivers in this field, another driver who we have not called his name all night long, and yet here he is, trying to dice for the win.
McCollum now in front again. Seems like we've said that a million times already tonight. But a few new players up towards the front. Eberhardt's already charged towards the front. He's that 4th car on the outside line. The 15 machine of Alex Bell now pushing the 22 of Graham Boland. And then Scholes, fun little factor on that Home Depot paint scheme. I got a little bit bored and searched up the Home Depot's location represented, the 3703 right in front of the wheel well, out of Minot, North Dakota, of all places. So any folks who live near the Badlands, you got a reason to cheer for the number 2 machine.
Is that a specific car that he would be racing? It looks like a Logano car of some kind. But
it would be an original Logano car, because the original Logano car was the all-orange one, I believe, or at least the maybe the 10 or the 11, actually, because the 09 had the white splotches and swooshy bits that were very much Tony Stewart's second scheme inspired, no question. But now look at how far this outside line has dropped back, and look at how much momentum that inside line has. You've got about 7 or 8 cars stacked up, and now how about our league grandmaster Anthony Alfredo himself up here as they begin to work their way around the lap car. The 87 machine could be a dicey moment, but they almost managed to make it, and then they wreck on the back straightaway, and 1 car around in the middle of the back stretch. Is it going to bring out the caution flag? Not yet. Waiting to see. There are plenty of cars that have gone around.
He cleared off.
Everybody all okay. So, still green. It was the one machine of Cody Smith that got caught up in that, but now McCollum ahead of Solis, ahead of Alfredo, ahead of Cam Caldwell, the 12 machine. There's a name we really haven't called much tonight, as McCollum goes to the top side and he gets stuck in the middle, and there goes Alfredo up top here, and all of a sudden, 3 laps to go at Daytona.
The time running out for these drivers. Who's going to try and make that final move and make it stick? Is it going to be the aggression out of the 17? Is it going to be the calm kind of perseverance of that 21? Who's it going to be as they come off turn number 2? And look at Aaron Smith. We talked about him earlier on. One of those veteran drivers there, and has not done a whole lot. It's been a very Aaron Smith day. He's just hung around in the back, kind of waiting to see what will happen. And just like that, we have this whole set of cars going back to about, I would say, 10. So we have 10 cars in this pack here. They're going to try and vie for the win as they come to the start-finish line. 2 laps to go.
2 laps to go at the strike. Big bump from Graham Bowen to try and push McCollum forward, but not enough to unseat the 54 just yet. So McCollum doing a really nice job of jumping through lanes, and now there goes Bowen to the top side. Eberhardt gave him a little nudge, then looked to the inside, thought about trying to shuffle him out 4 wide, and then thought better of it. So that trio's going to get a very good run on the top side, and we'll see where they are when they come to turn 3. In the meantime, though, McCollum and Solis and company still just hanging out of the bottom. They come to the white flag. They'll get it into the line next time by.
Yeah, still side by side here in the middle of that pack, and it's the 15. Alex Bell going to have maybe an opportunity to try and win this. He gets blocked, and he'll go to the outside, and it'll be a 3-car drag race as they come to the line to take the white flag this time. They will finish this race out. Who's it going to be? Anthony Alfredo giving the push to the 54 McCollum as they head towards turn number 1. Down on the bottom side, it's the 2 of Jose Solis Jr., and on the top side, the 15 of Alex Bell, now being pushed by the 20 of Brendan Kohler.
There's a fear of commitment on that top side, but Alex McCollum's not afraid to go there, and he will jump up to the outside and is the first one to make it happen. He tried to get down in front of Anthony Alfredo, who's got a big run with Daniel Eberhardt down the middle, and McCollum with a very big run on the top side. Is he going to stay up there for the moment? Yes, he tried to come down in front of Alfredo, and now Alfredo's got a run with Daniel Eberhardt. He gets shoved down to the bottom. Eberhardt might have a run through the middle as they come through 4 for the last time. It's Alfredo and Eberhardt side by side. McCollum up there too, 3 wide to the start-finish line. Eberhardt, Alfredo, and McCollum, and at the line, waiting, it is Anthony Alfredo. No, the league was not rigged, but Anthony Alfredo comes through, the Grand Master of the league owner and the founder, wins the first ERL Premier Series race over Eberhardt and McCollum, and it was just about a dead heat at the finish. They were 3 wide and managed to keep it together for the most part, at least not before they crossed the start-finish line. Did they wreck? But you had everybody all over the place in that finish. You had the 17 up in the middle. You had Eberhardt just hanging, trying, and then you had McCollum way up top. He got help from the 15 of Alex Bell, but Anthony Alfredo, Flash Pasta, gets the victory in this ERL Premier Series race at Daytona.
It's not rigged, we swear.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. He'll come in, and we'll definitely have to see what he says about that. But another shot of the finish just for them to go absolutely nuts, 3 wide like that. Incredible stuff. And if that's the last finish that we see at Daytona for a while, quite frankly, I'm okay with that, because that's about as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, we'll watch it again here. Just a couple slow-mo looks at this replay here. You can see the 17. I think what lost him that one was just the fact he got a little bit loose coming through the tri-oval, and he just lost that momentum. But a very, very, very close finish there, 4 1/1000ths of a second. And then Alex McCollum, 19 hundredths of a second up on the top side. And you saw there kind of towards the end of this, watch that number 2 car, as unfortunately he's able to cross the line, but as you'll see here, oh actually no, that's the 12, that number 12 car of Cam Caldwell. He crossed the line, the engine did not.
He crossed the line, the engine didn't. Fair and valid point there all the way through. So definitely was pushing until it blew up, or pushing until he got to the checkered flag, or both in this case. And I'd say so far as he's concerned, that's actually a pretty convenient place to lose the motor because you're at least going to cross the start-finish line no matter what. There's a guarantee there on that front that you're in good shape no matter what happens. So not too bad at the end of things, I would say.
Yes, we'll go ahead and take you through your full race rundown here, and we'll have the opportunity to talk to our race winner as well as second and I believe third place. All three of them, we'll be able to get them in here shortly. But James, let's run you through who finished where here at Daytona.
Anthony Alfredo wins the first race in his own league, and no, he actually did win that race. We're not here to shuffle things around in that sense, but Alfredo wins. Daniel Eberhardt comes home in second. A really strong speed weeks for Eberhardt here, no question. Alex McCollum with a really strong run. He was up front all night, finishes third. Jose Solis Jr. sort of hung around in the back of the field and didn't do much until the end, but came up to the front when he needed to and got fourth. Brendan Kaler finished in the fifth position, right where he started, so even money return for the 20. Alex Bell in the 15. Came home in the sixth position. I believe hard charger of the night goes to Cam Caldwell in that 12. Even with the blown motor, comes home seventh after starting 24th out of 25 cars on this grid. Great finish for the 12. Graham Boland finished in the 8th spot. Ninth went to the 70 of Aaron Smith, and Andrew Freenars finished in the 10th position.
Yeah, finishing 11th is going to be Jimmy Mullis. Jared Liebert is going to finish 12th. 13th is going to go to Braxton DeVries. 14th to Kyle Smalley. 15th is going to go to Nick Olson there. Brandon McKissick going to finish 16th. 17th to Greg McConey. 18th is going to go to Kyle Alai. 19th is going to go to Cody Smith. And Zach Novak rounds out your top 20. Not sure what's going on with the results tab there.
Going a little bit wild as Andy Tripiano came home in 21st, got involved in that wreck in turn 1 and 2 with about 10 to go. River Hayes got in trouble early and ended up 22nd. 23rd went to the 19 of Briar LaPrade. James Lowe in the 9 car finished in 24th, and Blake Reynolds in the 3 machine rounded out the field. Blake got in trouble on that first yellow flag and just couldn't get any sort of momentum or luck whatsoever in the 3 machine at the end of the day. So big run there for Alfredo. We'll talk to him and a few of these drivers, or a few of these other drivers, in just a moment. If English could be a thing that I could English in the English, because we like the English, but I'll take that. A 3-wide finish at Daytona where they keep it clean and really didn't wreck at all coming to the finish, and didn't wreck until after the checkered flag. Don't think anybody's going to complain about that in the slightest.
There we go. We got him now.
We have him now. We have a man who I think let's start with the obvious as we bring Anthony Alfredo into chat. Anthony, explain to the folks that you won fair and square, that there was no
this
sort of
is not a good look.
No, it's not a good look at all. But hey, you did get the win fair and square. So first, let's dissipate the fears from people that think you might win every week, and then B, just talk about those last few laps and how you cycled yourself through this pack into position to get the win.
Oh man, that's such a great question. I don't even know where to begin, honestly. I guess the first place to start is just to say what an incredible first event, and thank you guys for helping host this and broadcast it. Under caution there, I was checking out the broadcast to see how it looked, and it was really cool, but I'm just so appreciative of everyone who's been supportive of this, especially the drivers. I mean, 3/4 of the field were Pro Series drivers, so that was my first time racing with them, and let me just say they're extremely talented, and that was the most fun and the most intense race I've ever been a part of on iRacing. These guys are race so hard, and honestly, I don't care what people say. This is iRacing, but this feels dang close to as good as a real win feels in real life, because to win against these guys is no joke. Honestly, the final laps, I don't even know where to begin. I was kind of in the back there. I was being really aggressive, kind of switching lanes, and I went from about to pass for the lead while in second to drop into the back, and kind of I had to do it because I was overheating, so I kept trying to peek out, and ended up being able to work our way back up there. I had a huge push from the 17 in the middle lane down the back straightaway on the last lap, and as soon as I got clear of the leader, I tried to block both lanes for a second to stall him out right before I went to the bottom, and the 2 gave me an awesome push to the line, and honestly, I might have put myself at risk there going on the apron, but I learned that from the Coca-Cola iRacing Pro Series race, the eNASCAR race last week. And I did it just to defend the 2. I didn't know if he was going to do that and leave me or not. But holy cow, that was so close. I don't think we could ask for much more out of a first race, that close of a finish and that intense of racing. It it was a blast, and it's probably not the best look that I won my own league race. I was on the phone with my dad the other night, and I go, I want to race with these guys, but I really don't want to win. It wouldn't be a good look, but of course it happened there.
It happens in the first race, but a lot of good points to touch on. I think we'll just sort of work through them one by one here and start with a bit, because clearly you picked up something from Keegan Leahy. I thought when I saw it happen, it was more to defend, just to make sure that the two didn't get into your rear and spin you out coming to the line. But clearly, based off of what you said, you saw what Keegan did last Tuesday night. You said, oh, if it worked for him, it'll work for me. So let me make sure that I pull that move off too and make sure that I'm safe. If I don't have enough momentum, so be it. But at least I'm not going to get turned.
Exactly. That was kind of the plan. Was I had a good enough run. I knew he wasn't going to pass me, but I couldn't see the 17. I didn't know if he was going to beat me to the line, so I figured shorten it up a little bit, and like you said, also definitely defend the 2, because I think if I didn't do it, he was going to do it. And then I would have had no help, and I probably would have ended up 3rd or 4th. But that was insane. That was so cool. I have high expectations now for the rest of the year. The bar was set high right there. But what more can you ask for? I mean, that's what the best iRacing drivers and an equal playing field of a fixed setup race, only 50 laps does. It's intense. The racing's tight, and I just appreciate iRacing supporting this as well with the time attack session for the opportunity for some other guys, including myself, who aren't real Pro Series drivers, to lay down fast enough laps to qualify for the league. So we got 12 races to go, and this is probably the only one I was going to run, but I'm excited to see where the rest of these guys wind up throughout the rest of the year and in the championship standings.
And I think you bring up a very good point there, in that this is one of the first leagues that I've seen take advantage of the time attack feature to set the field. It was something that you had in mind from the beginning. What does it say to you? What does it mean to you that, within 24 hours, you're pulling down, at least 5 or 6 different drivers? I think I counted 7 or 8 from the 32 that are going to run in this series that are from the Coke series. And then, as you said, 3/4 of the field that have either run pro or probably are going to run road to pro over the course of 2020. This is not an easy field to get victories in. There's a lot of talent up and down the grid.
Absolutely. There's 2 parts of that. Number one, it makes for incredible racing. I love seeing these guys race it out in a fixed setup race that's short and intense. 50 laps it's a little bit longer at Daytona, but obviously not as long as a full race. But I think the biggest thing is just how thankful I am for them supporting it. iRacing's done a lot for my platform, and my relationship with SimSeats has grown tremendously. It's really cool to win in their car. Maybe that's a little bit of a teaser for a real race car this year. Just throw that out there. But it's just really cool, like I said, to have their support, because it's helped me grow and helped me in real life. And so many of these guys are so talented, and I utilize my platform as a spokesperson for not only iRacing and the whole sim racing and esports industry, but also these talented guys racing virtually. So esports has always been near and dear to my heart since it started getting really big, and way before then, when I was just a regular console, FPS gamer. And then, of course, when I started racing, and that bridge that brings the two together is sim racing. So it's been really cool, and this is something I've been working on for a year, is this league, and to have it real now and have you guys broadcasting it and race with some of the best is just really cool. Honestly, this feels way more incredible than I ever would have imagined. It really means a lot to me, and I'm really excited for the future.
Yeah, I guess it might go without saying, but just further reminder here: you beat the defending Coke Series champion in a race. Just heads up, amongst a lot of other good drivers too, but there's that, which I think probably might top it all.
Yeah, I don't know where to begin. You guys are going to have to send me plenty of clips and screenshots from this. I'm going to be posting about this a lot. This one's going to last a while, probably till my first Xfinity race this year at Auto Club next week. So I got a week and a half to soak this in and kind of hype it up until I go race in the real world. But then we'll be back on here for the next race. Actually, Auto Club is the next one for the league next week. So I don't know. We'll see. Now I'm leading the points, so I may be committed here. And if I could utilize this as real practice for my real life races, then how could I not do it?
Valid point there. Before we let you go, Anthony, as always, the opportunity that we give to folks to make sure that they get the chance to send your thank yous, your sponsors, your shout outs, of course, goes to you. So, who do you need to thank for making tonight's victory possible?
Well, first, I want to start with just everyone who supported this series, which is my mom and dad for supporting the idea, because at first that they don't really understand this industry, and they're like, shouldn't you be focused on your real life racing? And I'm like, man, this is so important to me, and it adds value to my real life racing, both on the track and off the track. And racing with these guys is really cool and important to me, and I'm a big supporter of this. So thank you to them. Thank you to iRacing. Thank you to you guys at Podium Esports for supporting the league and broadcasting it. The broadcasts look amazing. I can't wait to go back and watch it now after the fact. Everyone who attempted the time attack, because we had over 100 people. So let me just say that, because there's only 2 series, so it's only 64 drivers, but everyone who attempted, and there'll be another opportunity for the fall season. And of course, like I said before, iRacing and SimSeats. I'd say that this incredible simulator I'm sitting in right now talking to you guys helped me out a lot tonight.
Plenty of people to thank, plenty of things to make happen here, and a year's worth of work ends up with a victory in the first race. Anthony, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations, and we'll see you in some capacity at Auto Club next week. We'll figure it out.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Anthony Alfredo, driver of the number 21 machine, who comes home with the victory tonight. And I guess that means we get Cisco here to talk with somebody. We'll make Cisco make words, even though he loves pressing the buttons more, as he gets the chance to talk with Podium Esports Daytona 500 champion for 2020 and runner-up in tonight's season opener in the inaugural race for the ERL Premier Series, Mr. Daniel Eberhardt.
And my old teammate, too. You have to add that in.
Yeah, I forgot about the Aegis connection too.
Back in the old days, Stan.
Back in the way back.
Once again, another Daniel Eberhardt plate track kind of day for you here. You finished second to the league owner, so you can lodge your, I guess, formal complaints here. You could just send him that email. But nonetheless, Dan, another very aggressive, very fun race to watch you race in. Talk to us about it, man. How was it out there?
It was crazy. Former teammate, I like that. That was pretty funny. But and former series or team owner too, because you ran for Super Speedway Cup for a little while. But no, it was a lot of slam drafting. I mean, it was like crazy at the end, and the only choice I had was go to the middle line, and then I forget who it was that shot up to the outside, but then it put me right behind the 21, and I started pushing him, and then I really didn't have any help, and I was just watching both lines, and I'm sitting in the middle, and I really had nowhere to go, and I was hoping the 20 would get to me a little quicker. If he would have gave me that push probably 2 feet further back, we might be coming home a victor tonight, but it's okay. I mean, you're running out here with a guy who's doing it in real life, and, it's pretty cool to see him win. And, I mean, I'm pretty excited to see what the season holds. You're running against a couple pro guys, and, I've seen a lot of big moves tonight, and that's what made it real interesting.
Well, what's interesting here is this was your second round with several of these eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series pros. They're starting to feel you out a little bit. First time out, they had 500 miles with you, and you beat the best of them. You're 2 for 2 here if you talk about just the eNASCAR Pro drivers. So at this point, you're gonna try and go in that road to pro at this point. I mean, looking from the onset, Dan, you should be running in that series if you're doing this well against them.
I would love. It's a lot different when you have setups and a fixed setup. I wish there was a fixed series, but hey, that takes a lot of effort. And definitely with the money on the line, they just deserve to run for what they're running, and having to put that much effort into it, that's what it should be. And no, I haven't made that decision yet to run Road to Pro. Our rating's a little low, and it's getting to where Road to Pros turn up to like 7K I rating, so I haven't really thought about it. And I know that y'all are going to do a good job broadcasting. I heard about that. So, but all in all, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the pro guys, it's restrictor plate racing, Cisco. I mean, I love it. That's what I love running is restrictor plate racing. You can ask any of my buddies, and even that. Is that I've always been good at it. I like doing it. You have to be aggressive, and that's really what I am.
Well, Dan Eberhardt once again, another Dan Eberhardt kind of day here at Daytona. Before we let you go, of course, you got plenty of sponsors on the card there. We'll let you say hi to everybody before we let you go here.
Yeah, I got to give a big shout out to Sim Motorsports. They're the ones hooking me up with the rig and hooking me up with this paint scheme. Well, that's actually Sim Graphics who hooked me up with the paint scheme. Abruzzi Racewear, and I got to also thank a big shout out to Sean Kalis with SK Racing. Been a big help all through this time after winning the Podium Esports 500, and they just been coming at me with a couple things, and I like their ideas, and that's more further to come later on down the road. And I got to give a big shout out to Anthony, and hopefully his career in the Xfinity Series is going to shoot off. That's a big deal for him, and thankful for him putting this on. He's got a lot more on his plate to be worrying about this, but he comes from the gaming side, and like a lot of us, we're all big gamers, no matter if it's on a console or on here. And I got to give a big shout out to you guys once again, and big shout out to my grandma who's watching in the other room, and my fiance, and the good Lord above, because without him, none of this would be possible.
Well, that's Dan Eberhardt. He finishes second here at Daytona. And hey, Dan, we'll see you next week out in Fontana Auto Club Speedway. Hope to see you out there, and we'll see you then.
See you guys.
That's Dan Eberhardt. He finishes second, and I'm going to step in front of James here because I do want to get the opportunity to talk to the driver who finished third here, Alex McCollum, the driver out of the G2 Esports camp. And Alex, you were kind of up front all day, and James kind of noted you played a strategy out of Jeremy Allen's book to where you just kind of controlled the lines all day, just hung out up front, and you finished on the last step of the podium there, but nonetheless, good run for you out there. How was it?
Oh yeah, it was fun. Racing with Anthony and everybody that joined tonight was a really good race.
And tell us a little bit just how this whole Speed Weeks has been for you in total, because obviously we can talk about the eNASCAR Coca-Cola race, we can talk about the NASCAR, the NIS Daytona 500, so many different races, and of course you one of I think the more active of the drivers that currently run in the series. You're always on the sim. Tell us how has this Speed Weeks overall been for you?
It's been stressful. Tonight was probably my luckiest night. In the Coca-Cola series, I played a little bit too safe because I didn't expect it to go all 100 laps, but it's part of it. Had fun.
Absolutely, and of course you got. I'm sure we'll be seeing that paint coming up here in Fontana. So I do want to ask you a little bit about that next week. Of course, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series heading to Auto Club Speedway, and of course those 2-mile tracks. It's a very different world we're in now, Alex, with these 2-mile tracks because of this package, this aero package, and this engine horsepower package that we have with these cars. It's gonna feel not quite like a super speedway, but we're starting to get kind of there. What are you looking to see, and what are you hoping to find here in Fontana?
It's hard to say. Last year it was a really crazy race with it being like 3 to 4 wide with the end of the race. But I think come up next week, it's gonna be hold the bottom the best, and whoever can rotate the center and get the drive off.
Alex, we'll let you. You got plenty of sponsors on the side of the car there, and just walk us through who makes it happen for you and that entire G2 organization.
G2 Esports for sure. Logitech, AOC, Phillips, and Logitech, and Red Bull.
That's Alex McCollum finishes third here at Daytona. Alex, we'll see you around the turn here. We'll see you next week in Fontana, and then we'll see you in Fontana the next day because you'll be running with us here all season long. Alex, thanks for coming out, and thanks for coming up and talking to us.
Thank you, and thanks for the broadcast.
That's Alex McCollum. James, that kind of wraps up everything here from Daytona. So we begin to close the book here on what might be the final broadcast here at Daytona. Lots of exciting racing throughout January and February, both on the road course and the oval side. And we can finally say goodbye to Daytona Beach, Florida, I think, and start looking forward to Fontana, start looking forward to Fontana here on the ERL side, and of course we get ever closer to that iRacing Road to Pro series, which starts coming up here in March.
So much to look forward to on the horizon. You have the sort of Daytona chapter of the season, but that I think we can finally close the book on at long last after what seems like an eternity. We've been here for so long. But anybody running official this week, we'll see Las Vegas and the ERL, our next event, 7:30 next Wednesday night, the 26th. We'll see you all from Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. That's race 2 on the calendar of the 2020 spring season for the ERL. Road to Pro coming up at the beginning of March 2, and all of that you're going to be able to see here with Podium Esports somewhere. We'll figure out where exactly in the days to come, but a lot of fun, I think, to come in 2020. A lot of things to look forward to. Oh, by the way, also a new build coming with the Porsche Cayman GT4 car for those who want to get a little bit more action in the Michelin Pilot Challenge over on the IMSA side of things. And if you want to go head-to-head with that Audi TCR that was released in September, you will have a Challenger in March to add there as well. So the road course bits getting well served in the
I will
March
say,
build,
James, that Cayman is a lot of fun. We spent some time today over on Alpha just doing some filming with those cars, myself, Alex, and Nate DeSelms. And we just tore around. We went to Tsukuba, we went to Lime Rock, and we went to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And that car is a very fun car. It's one of the first road cars I've gotten to put some extended mileage on in a while. And that car's fun, especially if you get the chance, take it to Tsukuba. That track fits that car perfectly.
Yeah, I was about to say a little bit more power than the MX-5, which I would say would be the closest comparison, at least in the official tree, to any of the cars available on the service. So lots of fun there. But this is ERL, this is NASCAR, this is the Esports Racing League, and we'll come back to it next Wednesday night, February 26th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll go at it for a little bit of fun racing from Auto Club Speedway, but for now, we'll go ahead and wrap up the broadcast. So a big thanks to everybody that's tuned in. A big thanks to Anthony Alfredo and everybody at SimSeats, RCR, T-Dealer Management, Chevy, everybody behind the Esports Racing League. And a big thanks to all of you for watching the broadcast here on the ERL Racing Twitch channel. And for the reminder, if you want to follow our adventures at Podium Esports, head on over to the Podium Esports Twitch, twitch.tv/Podium Esports, and then the Facebook page, Twitter at Podium Esports, and Instagram at Podium Esports for more fun and more adventures on our ends. But time for us to say goodbye. So for everybody at Podium Esports, for Gary Sexton and John Theodore, and for Anthony Alfredo, everybody at ERL, and for our producer broadcaster tonight, Cisco Scaruza, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you all so much for watching this debut broadcast of the ERL from Daytona. We look forward to seeing you 1 week from tonight in Fontana.